Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here at the Spartan Rocketry Club, and I'm continuing my build of the Estes Great Goblin today. So, the epoxy on the tube is dry and ready to go. It's time for more epoxy fun. This time it's with the fins. So, before I actually whip up the epoxy and start gluing things, I do need to do a little bit of light sanding. So I already did most of this, but this part right here is kind of a pill to sand, but there is a burr in it and it does need to fit flush against the body tube. So a little bit of sandpaper will take care of that. And then I need to get rid of the burrs here. So I'm going to stack the fins and just use a piece of sandpaper on the ground, or on my mat rather, and try to take those burrs off. Apparently this is it's going to take a little bit of work. Let's try it this way. They are coming apart as I'm sanding them, so the other approach I could do is just grab my sanding block and try it this way. I don't know which is better. I usually sand things right on the table, but for whatever reason, this time feels like it's easier to sand it with the sanding block. I don't need to get this perfectly flat, but there's a little notch. Oh, I know what the notch is. The notch is from the joint where I glued the two fins together. So we don't like that kind of smooth. But mostly I'm worried about those big burrs. Right. Generally, you can see the dark is where the laser burned, and we kind of want to get rid of that. So that's probably pretty good. All right, I did test fit all these before anyway, so they should be pretty good. We will double check that, of course, before everything goes in. All right, as for the epoxy, again, I've got my binary. I'm only going to use one glove this time, mostly, hopefully that's just one glove. Yeah. Mostly because I'm far less likely to get epoxy on myself. I kind of know my limits. It's not a bad idea to put gloves on both hands when you use epoxy, but I'm only really likely to get it on my offhand here. The one that I'm going to be holding the stick with, I am less concerned about. All right, before I whip up the epoxy, because again, that is time sensitive, I'm going to double check fit here for all the fins. They should fit in slots nicely. There we go. That one's not, it's not as great a fit as I would really hope for at this point. Some of these might need to be, yeah, that's better. Might need to be sanded down a little bit. But we will double check to make sure everything fits in nicely. Okay. So that's how it should look when everything is done. Through the wall fin construction is a whole lot stronger, and it does avoid a lot of the problems that you can run into with trying to just glue fins onto tubes. But there is one minor thing that tends to go wrong, and that is if you don't get them all the way, like here, you can see there's a bit of a gap. There probably will be a bit of a gap on some, if not all of these. And it is still possible to get these on so that they aren't straight. We'll, of course, try to get the alignment right after all the fins are on. But epoxy, it doesn't tack the same way that wood glue does. So it's something to be aware of. All right, I shouldn't need as much epoxy for this as for the previous build here. So I'm going to go little on the light side. Well, maybe a little more than that. A little more, but not much. Of course, it's probably better to have too much than too little, because I don't really want to run out. All right, again, the epoxy that I am using is a 5-minute epoxy. I generally have found that, well, there have been a couple stray occasions where I have wished for maybe like a 6-minute epoxy, but by and large, 5 minutes usually is adequate for the builds that I do, or at least as I go. All right, so load up the stick here, and I'm going to put epoxy basically along the whole, the entirety of the bottom edge here, including the sides going up. And I'm also going to put a little bit just kind of brushed along that groove. Right, in it goes, and I'm going to push it down. This doesn't guarantee that it's perpendicular, right? It usually is pretty good when you're doing through the wall, but it's probably not going to be perfect. All right, I am not going to worry about the alignment at all right now. I'm just going to get all 4 in. I am also not going to worry about any kind of leakage that's coming out of the sides. I will get that eventually. But for the time being, I'm mostly interested in getting the fins in place reasonably quickly. Okay. Next. Go. And you can kind of wiggle it back and forth until it feels like it's fully set. That's probably the perpendicular position, but it might not be. So don't just assume that since you got it in, it must be perpendicular. We will double check that eventually, once all the fins are attached. I'm not entirely sure how effective putting the little bit of epoxy over this seam is, but I do want to try because that's a joint and it matters. I'm getting to the point where I'm not going to be able to lie this down, but should be able to stand up like this from now on. I just got some epoxy on my glove. Good thing I was wearing the glove. I'm trying to do this kind of over top of the cup too, because I don't want drips getting on my cutting board. I really should grab that piece of newsprint again just as protection, but just kind of sailed on that. Oh well. I don't think I've made any particularly obvious, whoops, caught it with my shoulder, drips on my cutting board, so that's great. All right, last one. And together. All right. Now, everything is in place. I'm going to worry about 2 things now. One is I'm going to clean the excess epoxy up. So I'm going to I'm not going to make fillets here with my finger, but I am going to smooth it out and then wipe it, because there is certainly excess that's snuck out here. It feels like it came mostly where I put that extra blob for the seam and a little bit at the bottom for some of them. All right, now I'm going to check alignment. I have this nice grid line on my cutting board, so I'm going to try to center the, I'm going to look through the tube here, which is slightly off camera, I guess, not quite. I'm going to center the motor mount as I look down through the engine mount on one of the grids, and then I'm going to check the fin alignment on the grid line. So it looks like these two are pretty good. This one's decent, but this one is off by quite a bit. There we go. All right, all four fins right now appear to be not quite, but they're pretty close to the grid line. All right, I'm going to rotate it, recenter it, and then check again. This one up here, it's a little bit off, but not by much. Feel pretty confident about this now. Okay, so that takes care of the attachment. I guess I should just push in once more to make sure that these fins are as tight against the tube as I can get, and I can tell that they're not perfect, especially these two at the bottom. They don't look so hot. Actually, all of them are a little bit they're a little bit pushed away at the bottom. I'll just push all of them in again. I don't think that's going to make a whole lot of difference, unfortunately. And I am going to just quickly recheck the alignment here, since I did just push on something. It's entirely possible that it could mess up the alignment. It did a little bit. All right. I'm going to say that that's probably good enough. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. Gloves off, so I'm done playing with the epoxy. That's going straight out in the trash. This, I don't like keeping it on my bench here for a variety of reasons. Mostly it smells terrible, and it's probably not great to be breathing in. But I'm going to let it sit for, I don't know, like 30 minutes or so before I go transferring it. 30 minutes is probably more than I need. At this point, the epoxy is probably pretty well set, but I'm going to give it a little bit longer, and then I'm going to get it out of here. All right. So there's a little bit of construction left to do. I do need to attach the launch guides. Well, we'll see in the next video. But that and managing fillets on the rocket tube, where the fin joints are, that should probably be it for construction. So we're getting to the point where I'm going to have to start painting things. All right. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.